We
Hello.
lost.
Yeah.
All right. Can you see me?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So today is June 26, 2020. And Joel's got his vodka, right?
Hmm? Can't do it without vodka.
And Mom, what are you drinking?
I'm going to drink the wine that I have.
All right. So, do you want to pick up where you left off? Cousin Stephen had a question.
Yeah, we got his questions. I got he's all, in trouble with his address and stuff like that you have to take care of, right?
Yeah, I took care of that. But I
Okay.
did want to ask. I did want to make sure we answered his questions or got your stories on his topic.
All right. His topic was appropriate because we ended in 1929, the last time, which was the year that our great grandparents, Jacob and Deborah Schwartzbuch, came to America. They stayed for 6 months, I think, something like that. 3 months in Middletown, right after Jean Ann was born. And then they went to Cleveland for their son, Benny. He was called Beryl by Middletown, but he was called Benny in Cleveland for his wedding. It was in June. And they were to come back in September with my mother on the train. My mother went to Cleveland for the summer. That started the tradition of going to Cleveland when you were 16.
Oh.
And so on the way back in the train, my mother wrote in her diary, I may have mentioned this, that she was sad because it's probably going to be the last time she will see her grandparents because they'd be going back to Poland after the bar mitzvah.
Where's her diary? You have it?
No, goes way back when we lived in Brookline. I stole it from her drawer.
So you wait a minute. Your memory of her diary.
Drawer in the house.
This memory is from
60, 70 years ago. Are you okay with that?
Okay. Just making sure. Got it.
I found her diary and it actually was in my father's bureau. And I snuck a look at it and I came across that entry. As I said in the previous one, little did she know that there was not going to be a bar mitzvah because Morris Shapiro, my grandfather's brother, had died at the end of August. And it was a freak accident. I think Betsy or somebody mentioned it. Yeah. That a barber had pulled a hair in his nose and it became infected. They didn't have penicillin and he went into a coma. He was only 27 years old. So Nettie, or Nathan, we used to call him Nettie, but Nathan was his real name. He had the bar mitzvah, but he didn't have a party. And now we've learned just that his namesake, Nathan, Beth's son, is not going to have the bar mitzvah either, which was scheduled for Nathan's birthday, September 12th. What irony.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay. Prior to 1929, a year before, my great-grandfather, Jacob Schwartzbuch's brother, came to America to visit his family, which was in Cleveland. Now, this is where Stephen's question comes up. There were 3 brothers, but they all had different last names because in Poland in the 1850s, when they were born, a son, if you had more than one son, he had to go into the Polish army. So they found a way. So many of the families, and the Jewish families in the shtetl, they farmed out their sons to another family. So the real name is Krossenberg, but Jacob became Schwartzbuch because he was assigned to a family that had no sons.
Mm.
His older brother, Vigdor, he was assigned to another family whose name was Cronenberg.
Mm.
And that's how you get the three names.
Oh, okay.
Now, interesting enough, when Victor, the oldest brother, came to America in 1928, he went back to his original name because my cousins in Cleveland, Roger Cronenberg, they looked up the manifest of the ship in 1928 and found that his name there was Vigdor Krossenberg because there was no possibility he was going to be drafted in the
Yeah.
army.
Oh, wow.
So he went back to it.
Hmm. Interesting. And they would
That's,
farm out while they were young or when they were closer to 18?
oh no, when they were babies,
Oh,
they had to be assigned. I don't know if they actually lived with them, these other families. I don't know that.
yeah.
But they had to, they had to show proof that they were part of another family.
Wow.
And I've heard was true of many families.
Okay.
I don't know if there were any daughters. I don't know that.
Okay.
So Victor Cronenberg, I don't know if as I told you this, the Cronenbergs had a huge reunion 2 years ago of all the Cronenberg family. There were over like 120 people, all the different generations. They met in Cleveland and they did a lot of research of all the members. They're spread out all over the country. And in a way, I'm sort of jealous because I wish we had one for the Schwartzes.
Mm.
But nevertheless, that's how a lot of this information came up.
Okay.
It turns out that the youngest brother, his name was David Krassenberg. He had the original name. And he's in the photos of 1936. Oh, I'll jump over to that. In 1936, my grandparents, Rose and Harry Shapiro, and Rose's sister Becky, and her husband Jaime Cronenberg, and her sister May Klaus from Detroit, they went to Poland to see their family. This was in the fall of 36. Hitler was already moving about. He had taken over a great many, not many countries, but he was a danger even in 1936. So they went to Paris and Switzerland and then to Poland. And so those were the last pictures we have of the family.
Mm.
And even at that time, my grandmother said she spoke, one of her sisters, Sarah Krinsky, they were very well off. They had a factory in Bialystok where they made clothing. And Max Volk, Ilana's father, he apprenticed there. That's how he learned the rag trade when he was a kid. So my grandmother tried to say, well, why don't you come to America? And, we'll help you out. But they said, no, why should we? We're very comfortable here. We have a good business. We have our family. And the rest, is history.
Mm.
So there were 4 siblings in Poland. Alana's grandmother, Libby Volk, and her husband, Mordecai. Sarah Krinsky and her husband, Jacob, and they had 2 sons. And then the one brother, Zachary, and his wife was Ida, and they had 2 children. Zachary ran the family hardware store. And then the youngest daughter was Anna. She never had children. But of course, that whole group was wiped out in 2 different camps. I can't remember them right now. I'd have to look them up. But Alana's father was the only one who survived. he was in the he was scheduled to come to America. My grandparents and the Cronenbergs were sponsoring him. He had a date to leave for America on September 3rd. He was to leave from Danzig, which is the port city of Poland, and where you pick up the ship. And when he got there, the Nazis had invaded Poland on September 1st.
Mm.
So he felt he better go home. He was very worried about his family. So instead of getting on the ship, he went back to Poland. And of course, eventually they all went into a ghetto. And around, 41 or so, like around that time, they were in the ghetto, but his mother, Libby, encouraged him to escape. And she helped him. She had to push him over the wall so he could run into the forest. And they were called, forget there's a term for them. And they hid out in the forest to fight the Nazis. And later they fought the Russians. And there he met his wife, Anna. She also had escaped to the forest.
Mm.
And
How
she
long
was, what?
How
That
long
was
did
Alana's mother.
How long did they live in the forest for?
Well, when you say lived in, they were hiding out. They were in the trees and bushes and they must have been going from one area to the next just to get away from whatever they heard or something. I'm sure thousands or certainly hundreds of them died in the forest.
Well, their story, they both made videos.
Mm.
And Stephen has seen the video.
Mm.
And I don't have it anymore, but if anyone wants to see it, it was put out by the Shoah Institute. Both Max and Anna have separate videos about their life during the war.
Okay.
Okay, so backing up, I did want to get back to those three brothers. It turns out that when the Cronenbergs were organizing this reunion, they found out that the younger brother, David Cronenberg, who appears in the pictures of 36, he has a cane and a white beard. He never married. That he went off to Argentina during the early years of the war with Vigdor's Cronenberg's third wife.
Mm.
She was much younger than Vigdor. He had been married 3 times. The first time he married, he had a get. You probably don't know what that is, nor do most of my cousins. A get is a Jewish divorce. It's given by a rabbi. Okay, so it was obviously an unhappy marriage. Then he married Heike Volk, or Hadassah Volk, and many of the family are named after her. She had several children, including Hyman Cronenberg. So you see, Hyman Cronenberg and Becky are first cousins. Their fathers were brothers. And Heike Volk had a younger brother named Mordecai, and he married Livy Schwartz, Alana's grandmother. So Alana is connected to both families, to the Volks and the Schwartzes, which makes for an interesting combination.
Okay. Too bad she doesn't live closer.
What do you mean?
Alana lives in Europe. She's pretty far.
She spends half the year here.
Oh.
But unfortunately, she's caught now. She's afraid she can't come here now because of the virus. So she doesn't expect to come back until February.
Mm.
she can come because she's an American citizen as
Mhm.
well as a French citizen. But she's afraid to take, chances.
Yeah.
Right now, LA, she can't go back, that kind of thing. It's
Yeah.
just too risky.
Yeah.
Okay. There was one other brother in the Volk family, more Max's brother. His name was Sholem. He survived because he had gone to Israel or to Palestine in 1937. So he escaped the war, and he lived and married on a kibbutz. So that when my grandparents went to Israel for the first time in 1952, they visited Sholem and Max. Max was already in Israel then. Okay, we'll take a pause to say hello to Sylvie.
What's
Sylvie's
that?
got a beautiful dress on. Sparkles. What is that?
Tell them about your dress.
It's Frozen 2 dress.
It's from what?
Frozen.
My necklace.
It's from the movie Frozen and Frozen 2.
Oh,
It's a Disney movie.
we were frozen out of that.
Hi, Cookie.
Hi.
How are you?
Call me Cookie when you talk to me.
Call you Cookie? I always call you Cookie.
Mhm.
I
All
haven't
right.
got to
Tell them anything.
Yeah, here comes your sister. There, the princess.
Hello. Look.
Hi. Oh no, you're eating my face.
There's Olivia.
You see my
Is she also wearing a princess?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, she's wearing the sister. They're in the movie. They're sisters, Anna and Elsa. Who's Anna?
Anna? Here it's Anna.
Hi, Olivia.
Here.
You. And who's Elsa?
Here, her.
Okay.
And you're Queen Aduna.
What do you want to tell the?
And Daddy's and
Just up
her
for this.
daddy tell her daddy.
Will they see this? No.
Yeah,
What do you guys want to tell the Shapiro family? Remember we went to Connecticut to see the Shapiros? No, don't touch. Please don't touch the camera. That's the computer. What do you want to tell the Shapiro family?
Good question.
Who are you talking to?
No one. Nobody.
You gonna tell them anything? You want to say hi to Uncle Joel or Grammy?
Hi, Grammy.
You want to
Hi,
show?
sweetheart.
Why do you always Grammy? Why do you always call me Cookie when you talk to me?
I know I call you Cookie. That's your junior name.
It's a nickname.
We're gonna call you Cookie Lacour.
Cookie.
Sounds good.
And this Cookie. You're gonna call me Cookie, then I'm gonna call you Cookie.
Okay. Tell everybody your name, Olivia.
Olivia.
Your full name.
Oh,
No, not
Bear.
that. Tell them your full name.
Bear. Olivia. Bear. Rose. Bear. LeCoq. Junior. Oh.
All right.
Grammy.
Bear?
Bear. He calls her Bear.
Her nickname is Bear, so she says Olivia Bear Rose Lacour Jr.
Who's the senior?
Who's your junior because of Daddy?
No, now Sylvie's name.
Okay, Sylvie, what's your name?
Sylvie Marie Elena LaCour.
Those beautiful numbers.
But
Names.
where's Junior inside your name? Can I talk now?
Yeah, go talk, Sylvie.
Grammy,
Yes.
if you're gonna call me Cookie, then I'm gonna call you Cookia.
Cookie.
And I'm gonna be
What's
muffins.
Cookie?
And Sylvie will be cupcakes.
You I call Cupcake.
What's Mommy gonna be?
Cookie.
You're gonna be cake.
Cake?
Cake.
Oh, cake. You guys are the cupcakes and I'm the cake?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And Daddy's pot.
Pot?
Pot.
How about lollipop?
Lollipop. Lollipops and gumdrops.
Lollipop, lollipop, lollipop. Don't
You
you
know
know
the
that
song too, Grammy? No, it's not lollipop. It's lollipop. Lollipop, lollipop.
Is everybody going to the bathroom now? This is the break in the show.
Go. Let me finish talking to Grammy and Uncle Joel. Say bye.
Bye.
Okay. What do you
See you
want?
next week.
8:30.
How do you call a hippopotamus with one leg? A hippopotamus.
Good job.
That's very cute.
Okay.
Time to go to bed, isn't it?
All right. Go, guys.
It's only a joke.
All right. I'll be right back. Hold on 1 sec. Are you guys? No. Come on. Out. Where's Daddy? Get
Oh,
ready.
yeah. She added it.
Can I do one more?
Oh, let's go sit through that.
Because Lefty is recording the call.
Yeah, but she can edit it.
Yeah. Well, that was a very good segment. Where are we now?
Well, we've come up to 1936 anyway. We've been to Poland.
Not we. I wasn't born yet.
I'll see you when you're done.
I'm going to switch to the Shapiro.
From what? Oh, from
What's this one?
Okay. Back to business.
You're able to edit the stuff, right?
I mean, in theory.
Because they won't be able to sit through all of that with the children.
They might like it. We'll see.
Okay, I'm going to back up now to the Shapiro side.
Okay.
We've gone to 1936 with Schwartz's. In behalf, the Feinsteins reacted to the story. I wanted to explain. I'm sure they know it, but the rest of the family knows some more about the Feinsteins. Because Sadie and Jack Feinstein, their grandparents, they were also cousins. They were second cousins. And Jack Feinstein came to America as an adult. I don't know the year, but Sadie had come as a little girl. She was about 7 years old. And as her granddaughter said, she denied later that she was born in Europe. And she tore her face out of the family picture that was taken in Poland so that her children would not know that she was European or Polish Jew.
Sorry.
Now that picture, I remember that picture. I don't know where it is.
You don't need anything in the back.
But it was my great grandmother, Sarah Slitsky Shapiro, and the four children born in Europe: Harry, Sadie, Jack, and Herman. But what I do remember is that when she sent the picture, she wrote on the back, of course in Yiddish, was sent to her husband in Middletown to please disregard how she looked, because she had been sick just before the picture. And she said, I look very pale, because I'm paraphrasing. But I always remember that she was kind of vain about that and dismissed.
What else did they have?
So anyway, Sadie and Jack, as I said, were second cousins. They were even, closer in blood relationship than Harry and Rose. They were second cousins once removed. Jack's mother was a sister to Velvel Shapiro. Velvel was my great-grandfather's cousin, and he lived in Middletown. And he was, Orthodox. And I remember as a kid when we used to go to the synagogue for Rosh Hashanah, he would be on the bima, which is where the ark is. And he would be one of the elders who would cover himself with a tallis, cover his whole face, and they would daven, rock back and forth. And that's how I remember him. They never came to the house. I mean, for some reason, they weren't socially close. But in the later years, he and his daughter, Sally, lived in the same two-family house with Ida and Morris Polina. on Liberty Street. And Ida lived upstairs, so she was his cousin. She was Alda's cousin. And usually, whenever Jack and Sadie came to Middletown, Jack would run up to Liberty Street to see his uncle. And his wife was another Sarah Shapiro, and I remember when she died, but I never met her. She was a niece of my great grandfather Joseph Shapiro, so she was cousin, first cousin once removed. I don't know whether it was through her mother or her father that she was cousin. So my point is that a lot of these marriages, you know, they didn't have bars. They didn't have, what do you call those things on the internet?
Dating
J,
websites.
J-Date and Tinder to go to make, everything had to be made around the family, or Lunsmen, they used to call them, people who came from the same town. And that's why they had matchmakers, you know, to make weddings. But in so many cases, especially in the Shapiro Schwartzes, so many of them are cousins in marriage.
Mm. Got it.
Now, I think I said something before about when my great grandfather died, he left the store to my grandfather, Harry, the eldest, and he left $25,000 to the five other children, and including Minnie, that was considered her dowry. And she married 2 years later to Julius Grower, a doctor from Middletown. Now, Ida and Rose and Sadie, his three older daughters, were left out of the will. This did not make Sadie very happy. But his rationale was, as it was customary, he had given them dowries when they married.
Wow.
And each of those, they weren't $5,000, I assure you, because this is, 25, 35, 40 years later. But those dowries helped their husbands establish stores. In the case of Morris Polina, he set up a shoe store in Middletown. In case of Rose Bellman, her husband Ike had a clothing store in Southington. And Sadie and her husband Jack had a clothing store in Chester. So, that's how those things happened, through their dowries.
Wow.
Now, back to Morris, who had died. Morris received help from the Shapiros to set up a store in, can't think of the name now, starts with a G, near New Haven.
Glastonbury?
No,
Groton?
no.
I don't.
Anyway, he had a little town on the south of Connecticut. He had a store, and they lived upstairs from the store with Hattie. And he helped Jack Feinstein set up a shoe store in Brooklyn. And Herman, I don't know, Herman was a salesman in New York. And that brings up two interesting cases. You haven't heard, but maybe my cousins have, the Yiddish expression to shry. Shry is when usually a woman is very upset and she starts screaming, mourning. Well, my mother used to tell me there were only two instances when she heard my great grandmother shry. And that was when Morris brought Hattie home as his wife. 1925. I think they eloped because the family disliked the Kutners very much. And Hattie was like almost 5 years older than Morris. Her brother Ben was Morris's best friend. And Morris was like 22 or 23. And they felt, that she just swept him off his feet. She had been more experienced. So they were very upset that my grandmother shried. Then My great-grandfather, Joseph Aaron Shapiro, he died in 1927. And after that, shortly after his death, Herman comes home with his wife and his baby boy. And his wife is not Jewish.
Now you can try again.
She was called what they call a shiksa. She was Catholic. And that's when my great grandmother tried again. How could he do this? Well, in deference to his father, he named his son, who was a year old at the time, he was named Robert, but now he added my great grandfather's name, Joseph Aaron. So he was Robert Joseph Aaron Shapiro. And Herman's wife, whose name was Margaret Hanson, she converted to Judaism, and she took on the name Miriam. And that's how we always called her. She was very bright. She was what you would call today a political activist. And they lived in Middletown. He was in the insurance business. And they had a daughter, Maureen, born in 1931, and she was named after Morris.
What would she have been active about? Do you?
Well, there was. She was a Democrat, and there was a governor in Connecticut. His name escapes me right now. I'd have to look it up. She was a great fan of his. He actually ran for president at one time, around in the 1940s. But she was very politically astute, very smart woman. And she was probably one of the best daughters-in-law my great-grandmother had.
Huh.
Whenever.
All that trying for nothing.
Yeah, all that trying for nothing. So, and when we came from Boston, they always came down to visit us. And then the other thing about those times, especially in the late 30s and 40s, we used to always go to Middletown for Rosh Hashanah. And the Shapiros, that is my great grandmother, and all her children were on one side, and Harry and Rose, we were on the other side. It was a duplex because we were already a big family. But I can remember Jack Feinstein used to sit at the head of the table and lead the prayers. And I don't remember whether Herman and Miriam came to that because they were not religious. But strangely enough, when Miriam died in 2004, if you go to the cemetery, you'll see on her tombstone, Margaret Shapiro. She took back, she always had that name. Mm-hmm. And I think outside of the Jewish world, she was known as Margaret Shapiro and not Miriam Shapiro.
Oh, interesting.
So Jack Feinstein led the prayers, and Sadie and Minnie helped my great grandmother with the cooking, and Ida and Morris were always there. Phil and Ida and their children, Reuben and Judy, Minnie and Julius and their children, Bernice and Joanne, and the Feinstein children. So it used to be great fun. After we'd have our dinner on the other side, I'd go inside my great grandmother's house and visit with them. And then Reuben and Judy and Joanne and Bernice, and we'd go outside and play. And my sister was there too.
Really?
To summer. Their house, they had the most beautiful gardens. Yeah. Beside the house. And it was next to a church. So that the church had land, so it looked very open. But they had the most beautiful peonies. That's why I grew to love peonies from that garden. Roses, forsythia, iris. They had a French gardener. I don't know whether he was French or Canadian French, but he took care of it. And when my mother was married in the garden in 1932, in August, and my father's family came from Boston for the wedding, and his aunt Sarah told me many years later, It was the most beautiful wedding she'd ever been to.
Oh.
Now, Muriel was also married at home in 1941, but the wedding took place inside the house, and then the reception was outside in the garden.
Okay.
And Judy almost spoiled the whole ceremony because she started crying. You know, we were all sitting in the living room and the sunroom, and Muriel came down the stairs, and Judy started crying. It was, you know, so many people. My father had to take her outside.
Do you remember that, Mom?
No,
She was 2.
I was.
She was 2 the day before, actually. Her birthday was one day before the
But
wedding.
Muriel never let me forget it. I also spoiled her situation when she graduated from.
Wait, Mom, you gotta move over or move the screen so we can see you. Move the screen a little bit.
Better.
Yeah, a little bit down. There you go.
So I don't remember when I was 2 years old, Muriel's wedding, but I do know that when she graduated college, she graduated from Radcliffe on June
15.
June 15th. Was it?
You were born the day before.
Yeah. And she came with, I guess, her mother and her father. They came to see her graduation coming from Canada. And that was the day that I was born.
No, the day before. Well, you were born the day before.
I got to correct her.
So you stole her.
I stole her thunders. Everyone wanted to congratulate her, and I was the baby.
All they wanted to do was go to the hospital to see her.
She finally forgave me. 60 years later or something like that. Anyhow, is that it? You want to take a break?
No.
No, he's still going. I'm going to leave for a moment, but see you all.
All right, Joel, you'll have to move the screen a little bit back.
All right. How's that?
Yeah, that's good. Little more. Now you move. Move it more. There you go.
Okay. See, what do I need to cover? I think I've covered everything I want so far that I was thinking of. Oh, yeah. We went up to 1936 when my grandparents went to Europe to see their family. But prior to that, and here's, I'm going to land out with this. In May of 1936, the Shapiros celebrated the 70th birthday of my great grandmother. She was actually a little older than that, but they got around to it. And that picture, some of the people in the family must have the picture. It's one of the great family pictures, and includes my great grandmother had a brother, a half brother. His name was Herschel Slutsky, and his daughter was there, and her nephew and niece Ben Salvin and his daughter Bunny were there, and their father was a half brother. The Slutskys changed their name. That particular family changed their name to Salvin, but the youngest brother kept the name Slutsky.
Mm.
And so he was Dr. Salvin, Ben Salvin of Hartford. And most of his family moved to California in the 30s, including his mother, who was your favorite name.
Oh, Mayashi.
She was Mayashi.
Okay.
She was not only my great grandmother's sister-in-law, she was her first cousin, named after Sarah's mother, Mayashi.
Yeah.
So in that picture, well, there were 5 people definitely missing. My mother and father, Irving and Sylvia, and me, because my father's sister Helen got married the same day in Boston. Helen Herson. And Muriel, who was living with us, it was her freshman year at Radcliffe. She had to study for finals, so she couldn't go. And I noticed that Jerry Shapiro, Jack and Sophie's son, who would have been about 4.5 years old. He was not there for some reason. But Reuben is there. He's the youngest. He's about 6 months old.
Mm.
And you'll see, I have it somewhere, but I'm sure that in the Feinsteins and other families, they must have a copy of that, because that's a treasure.
Okay. Yeah, maybe when we put this out, someone will scan it and send it out.
Yeah. Okay, we'll stop at 1936.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.